Continuing from the first video, here are the next 12 of the 24 games I discovered from Next Fest of October 2025, which I tested like I would my normal demo reviews. Used to be 26, but sadly I just couldn't get a couple of these to work. I'll give you a basic overview of what these games are, how they play, and then I talk about the good, the bad, and how the devs can improve these games because all of them are works in progress. We'll go through each of these games in order of my playing them, and then at the very end, I'll rank these all in a tier list, so you'll know where I rank all of these next to each other. And this time it will include all 24 games, even from the first video. So sit back, use the timestamps if you want to skip over to the next one, and enjoy the rest of my top 24 picks from this round of Steam's Next Fest. I'm gonna be honest, Beneath ran like ass on my end way too much, but I also don't have a graphics card, and I'm only running a Ryzen 5 5600, although I also do have 32GB of RAM. On paper, Beneath looks like your run-of-the-mill survival horror game, and it kind of is, at least it's an Unreal Engine kind of game, which explains how well it doesn't run on my PC. But unlike other run-of-the-mill survival horror games, this one I think understands horror and does the kind of environmental horror storytelling quite competently. If this is a first level, they're doing a good job at it because it does what most other games can do, which is not the exposition dump and slowly reveal your way over what's actually going on to the player, kind of like how Half-Life did it back in Half-Life 1. Pros, there's a narrative easy mode for what I'd like to call as Walking Sim Plus, i.e. if you just want a story-based horror experience, and the other one that's a more hardcore survival horror experience, so you're able to cover a wide range of the market with these two settings alone. There's really good sound design and atmosphere in this game, with some pretty decent world building, one of the better ones I've seen, and you can't beat a game that's in a futuristic underwater lab that you can only reach by submarines. That kind of vibe just hits different. Cons, like I said, it runs like ass. Gunplay feels weak, but that's more on the animation side, because I think the gun sounds are alright. Enemies are bullet sponges, and although that may be the point, based on the story, the animation, I think especially when you hit them, feels lacking, so it comes off as less tactile, and you feel like you're actually not hitting them as hard as you should be. There's also this one-hit kill system that might work very well with the game's story, but that is just way too unforgiving and asymmetrical in my opinion. If they take a lot of hits, you just die in one hit. So, yeah. And then there's also the dreaded yellow paint of dumbasses, which, like Still Wakes Deep, kind of makes sense in this world, but if you're against that kind of thing, this might be a deal breaker. I wasn't able to get too much into the demo because again, it runs super slow at like 10 plus FPS on my PC. If they work on the optimization, the gunplay, and tighten up the story, I think there might be something here for me, but until then, I'll probably skip this one, but I think it's still worth checking out. Especially if you can run this thing. I think that's a big hurdle for me. I think Jackal can best be described as a game that's like if Johnny Depp from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was in a game like Hotline Miami, and then somehow the Egyptian god of death, Anubis, is also in the game, just aura farming. Yeah, and there's rock and roll. It's that kind of game. Jackal is a top-down isometric 3D shooter, kind of, where levels are carefully designed and constructed, but the enemies spawn randomly, and you keep dying until you get it right. All enemies are squishy and bloody, just like you are as squishy and bloody, which means you really have to plan out your movements very deliberately, because you're usually way outnumbered by bad guys most of the time. But when you do get to clear that level, it makes it all worth it. I think this game excels at depicting how close to death an actual squishy mortal human would be against other actual squishy mortal humans, who are also capable of violence like you are. I do like how they do the gore and violence, which you can turn off by the way, but it's done in a way that's complementary to the gameplay and not just gratuitous. Because again, you're squishy, they're squishy, you hit hard, they hit hard too. Based on my playing of the demo, this is going to be a melee heavy game rather than a shooter, which it has quite a bit of guns, but there's not a lot of it, and it's really not that satisfying, as well as hitting a guy with a crowbar, or like a hammer, or with just your fists. This is a game where you gotta really lean in deep into the drug and psychosis fueled rampage that this game is going for, and the sooner you can surrender to that kind of insanity, the sooner you can just switch off your brain and then enjoy the game, which the only downside I can see is the fact that the controls aren't that intuitive, so it's going to take a while for you to get used to or just remap them. And while they have controller support, I don't think I'd want to aim with the analog stick in the few times that you can actually point a gun in this game. And also how fast and visceral the combat comes and goes. So, keyboard and mouse for me for this one. And since you're friends with Anubis, again, the literal Egyptian god of death, For some reason, you're also Mark Spector and Khonshu in Marvel's Moonlight, except with more drugs and rock and roll, so it's that kind of game. Truckful makes an otherwise boring top-down driving game into something that's actually fun and challenging, at least in my opinion. Not my favorite orientation since forever, because I don't really want to think about flipping left and right steering controls in my head since I was a kid, but I enjoyed the delivery part of this game a lot more than the get chased by the evil truck game for no reason. Yeah, that happens in this demo. There's also an inventory management minigame and it's in 3D, where you need to organize and stack up your cargo correctly in a way that doesn't damage them or make you lose packages. Also, controls are necessary for this one, and not just for the analog steering, because you need precision steering and gas brakes, but I guess you could just get away with just quickly tapping in your keyboard. Unfortunately, I didn't end up finishing this demo because I had other demos to go through, so I don't know how this demo ends. I did stop at the chase segment since, like I said, top-down driving controls just aren't my thing, and it just got way too tedious, way too fast, especially with the checkpoint system, which is probably the only thing that I didn't like about this game. And the fact that, what the hell, truck? What's your problem? Post-apocalyptic zombie pandemic games of the infected just aren't my thing anymore, but Where the Forest Ends somehow looked interesting to me. Didn't know why until I started playing it. And while the actual game controls aren't quite there yet, I'd say Where the Forest Ends has more pros than cons, but only barely. And that's not a bad thing. The premise of zombies and an infection and the post-apocalypse isn't that interesting to me, like I said, but how they lay it out, if this was the actual first mission of the game, to me, that's what made it make the list. You're slowly introduced bits and pieces here and there, and initially you can't give a damn more about who these guys are and what they want to do, and while the demo doesn't really do anything to make you care astronomically way much more about them by the end of this playthrough, the careful and intentional map design and the careful curation of the world they're building is designed to make you curious about what's ahead. Like, I wanted to keep playing this game to know what's ahead. I wouldn't say that this is a survival horror game just yet, though the ammo and supplies are scarce. More like a 3D dungeon crawler with survival horror elements that does the atmosphere right, and you're obviously going to be managing your inventory a lot. Build-wise, this game is still janky and unfinished because obviously it's still a demo, so there's a long way to go in that area, but from what I see, there's a foundation of a solid game in there that knows what it is and what it's capable of, and I'm at least interested in seeing more. If you're a fan of investigation games, A Case of Fraud is the one for you. The game just dumps you files and documents with all the details you'll ever need. There's zero hand-holding whatsoever, and if the demo is any indication of what the final game's going to be like, you will have focused micro-objectives first before you try and solve the big mystery, which keeps things focused, and that's a huge plus for a game like this. Even though this is going to be a game that's 100% point and click and will require you to piece together the story of what the hell's happened, who are the important people, evidences, and details, you do get two critical things that I find very helpful. One, there's a freeform notes section where you can type your findings and categorize them, which I assume would be helpful when you're sifting through multiple sets of evidences, not just the one thing we have in this demo. And also when looking at the documents and evidence, you get a very detailed version of it, and you also get a plain text version that you can cross-reference with the visual clues for details that the game actually highlights for you. And I don't think people know or understand that a good mystery or investigation game, even IRL escape rooms, all hinges on bulletproof excellent writing that follows with clear logic and structure, and based on this demo, I think the writers for this game did a really good job at that. Winds of Arcana Ruination is a decent and potentially good Metroidvania in the making, although I'm still fairly new to the genre, but from what I know so far, it does what good Metroidvanias do, for the most part. The best thing about the game based on this demo is that the movement feels so fluid and responsive, which I think is one of the first things you need to get on point. With Metroidvanias, where traversal is the main thing that you're going to do and combat is just secondary, so movement has to feel good. And the story and world building looks pretty promising too. Without giving too much away from the start, you just jump in, literally, and you're not exactly an amnesiac, but you've been assumed dead and been missing for 3 months, so you don't know what the hell's going on. One of your homeboys is a ghost, and there's one last member of your mercenary crew that you find alive. It seems you've been under a captain who led an expedition into ruins for a scholar or mage, and something went wrong, and now we're trying to figure out what the hell's happening. I don't really do these fantasy-themed games, so I'm lost most of the time on the names and items and what these things do, but so far the game mechanics of how these items and relics affect your gameplay is laid out clearly, so it's easy for even a guy like me to follow along. For the cons, there's really only two. The combat is alright and can do with a bit of fine tuning, but it's mostly in predetermined mini boss battles that rush you, and I think you need a bit more enemies scattered around to serve as obstacles and XP grind material in between these mini boss battles to have a bit more extra, because you go through long swaths of emptiness when you're platforming, which makes sense if we're talking ruins, now that I think about it, but you need a constant stream of enemies to practice your combat with for you to actually become better at it. So when you get these rush boss battles or mobs, you're actually enjoying the experience. Then the second con is that for me it's a lot more linear for my liking. I know that they said in the demo that certain sections were blocked off to keep the experience focused, but I think the map design is also just way too left-righty and not enough branchy, pathy, uppy, downy type of thing. Some people might find the graphics to be bad, but I think it's just fine. But I honestly think the art design is pretty good, especially in these set pieces. Which to me, that's what matters more when it comes to graphics than simply having realistic models or the best sort of visuals on paper. Overall, you can see that the devs actually care towards the game that they're making and the world that they're building, so worth a check out. With a hard 20-minute play limit, Nautic XP can only give me enough of an idea of how detailed and in-depth this game would like to attempt to be as a pilot ship simulator thing, and I think it succeeds in doing so. It's essentially a flight simulator but in ships, like where you think, okay, as a dude, you might think you can land a plane if someone were to just put you in a cockpit in a life or death situation, peak male fantasy, but in reality there's a huge console of controls that you actually have to know and you have to be trained with in order to safely land that plane. Same thing here. You have to manually toggle stuff in a console in this one, and that makes the gameplay experience quite a bit point and clicky, a lot more point and clicky than flight sims. But you're in a boat or a ship and you're not really going to be doing much anyways for long periods of time, because it's a ship. If you've been in one, stuff takes a while to get from point A to point B. I'll even argue that even if you've got keyboard controls, you could theoretically do mouse only runs piloting these ships and you'd be fine. It's that detailed. Well, mouse only besides the camera and other in-game menu controls, but I digress. This next one is not from the Insomnia games that we all know and love, because apparently we're not even talking about the same game. There's a lot of games under the Insomnia title. This is the one by Melon Polygons, who, as far as I can tell, is a YouTuber from Russia who does Unreal Engine 6 tutorials, which, yes, this runs like ass on my PC too, since my PC just hates Unreal Engine 6. The demo is basically Chapter 1, or part of the full game's Chapter 1, and it's basically Russian Still Wakes a Deep, almost beat by beat, but set in an American research facility in Antarctica. Now, I don't want to be a hater for no reason, but to me, as someone who loves Still Wakes the Deep and enjoyed it, I didn't particularly feel too good about the whole copy-pasted feel of the first few minutes of this demo versus Still Wakes the Deep. To me, the biggest things that I didn't like about this demo, at least based on what I played, were the voice acting and the fact that there's a very thick Russian accent that you can tell from all the characters throughout. First of all, I know it's all voiced by Melon Polygon, so I'm cutting him some slack here, especially considering the fact that he's probably doing all of these by himself, it's a one-man show, and if not, probably with a close group of partners or collaborators, but you can tell it's from a small team. I have zero problems with that. I know it's also popular to hate Russians given everything that's going on in the world right now, but that's not it either. It's because the characters and the research facility was built to be an American one with an American crew, and I just can't buy into it because, one, the accent is too noticeable and the idioms and vernacular are simply not American enough. You can tell it's English being spoken by a Russian. But more importantly, this is the biggest thing for me, I'd rather see this sort of late Soviet era, early Russian Federation take on scientific research in Antarctica, because this game is set in the 1990s, and I think that would be a much more interesting take on the subject and come off as more authentic, possibly even scarier, because there are no scares in the demo, at least besides the fact that it's Unreal Engine 6 and your PC might actually catch on fire like mine, but that's probably my wishlist for this game, to lean into the Russian side more, and also maybe don't redo Still Wakes the Deep. Umigari is delightfully weird. The game is as straightforward as it comes. You spearfish fish with a harpoon, you sell them to this weird sushi chef in the middle of nowhere, you upgrade your boat and get enough cash and fuel to get as far away as you can since you're limited in fuel at first, but the more you sell fish, the more you get to upgrade, the more fuel you can get, and that's pretty much it. Then you get to this creepy ass school in the middle of the sea where there's this creepy thing, fish in uniform, and this weird guy and some desks, but Unfortunately, I could not advance after this since I think the game bugged out in this playthrough. Still, I forgot that it was a horror game at some point when I was just vibing, just fishing and selling and having a good time. It's like if the whaling minigame in Assassin's Creed Black Flag or Rogue was turned into a full game, and then suddenly there's horror, but like a weird, unsettling, surreal horror instead of like the jump scare horror we're used to. And in between there's sea monsters and sea ghosts, and this game's just, again, like I said, delightfully weird. The only flaw I see in this is the fact that it's buggy, it could be buggy, and the fact that it's an Unreal Engine game that runs horribly on my PC, even putting everything down to medium, but it looks good enough. Final Sentence is probably the typing horror game that Typing of the Dead wanted to be. It's fairly simple, just type what's in front of you. You have 4 minutes to type it all, which seems generous at first, but okay, this is where things get complicated. You only have 3 strikes to make mistakes. Once you've spent your strikes, you're gonna have a roulette where you may be shot by the Squid Game's guards in front of you, or if you survive that roulette, the 1 in 6 chance, you get to live a bit for now. Your 3 strikes are reset, but bullets will be added to the revolver, so the roulette has a higher chance of Russian rouletting you the next time you spend your next 3 strikes. Oh, and this game is also a multiplayer game of up to 32 players, and everybody's trying to finish first, because once that person wins, aka finishes, everybody else gets shot and dies. What makes this game fun for me and unique is that it's kind of like a fucked up exam where if your classmate gets something wrong, they get shot or something, and slowly people start getting eliminated and you're just hearing shots go off while you're typing, and all the while you're seeing this guy in front of you who has a gun and their role is just to kill you if you make a mistake. Also, there's voice chat, so you can actually distract people and be annoying if that's what you want, or hear people beg for their lives when they lose the roulette. Definitely one of the demos of all time. Go check this one out. A Prologue is another walking sim horror game that would have been a great demo, I just couldn't get it to work and it kept crashing. The game is basically you're stuck in the Bermuda Triangle, and from what I was able to play, it's you found yourself just in your dad's ship that ran aground like way back when. From what I was able to play, which wasn't a lot, but it was at least able to tell me, A, even though I think this is an Unreal game, it actually runs well, so there's a decent optimization going on here, and B, what I played was the outside world, so that's, I believe it's harder to render, and it was able to render that. Considering this is an Unreal Engine game that's notorious for, those games are just notorious for slowing down my PC, at least this one ran smoothly, and the graphics are also still good, so. But it also wouldn't load the next error for me, but it's a demo, not the full game, so I won't blame the devs yet for issues like these. Still a bummer though. And for the last one I tried, I think I got soft-locked into playing Scholar Adventure Mystery of Silence any further, but I still think it gave me enough in the demo to know how the final game is gonna play. And I'm 50-50 on it. Like most point-and-click games, you basically click everything until something happens, but unlike most point-and-click games, this one lets you actually control a character within the world you're in, so it's that one bit more interactive. I can already tell that the writing and the logic will make or break this game, since like a lot of point-and-click games I played when I was a kid, you need to have the right things in your inventory and interact with the world in the right order and maybe combine the right things, which this game has all of that. And you need all of that to progress through the story. Probably the good quality of life improvement this one has over other point-and-click games is the fact that the cursor actually changes icons based on how you hover that cursor and interact the world with that cursor. So things like items or characters in it, the cursor is going to change depending on whether it's interactable or what have you. But that's still a lot less info that I'm comfortable with that you're given in the game to help piece together things where you can intuitively figure out what to do and where to go next. Translation, I ended up looking up playthrough way much more than I'd like to for a game like this, or maybe my point-and-click game is just that bad. So those are my top 24 picks for this round's Next Fest. Here's the tier list of where I stand with all of these games. Pause the video right now if you want to take a closer look. For the Next Fest, nailed it. I'm probably not going to do anywhere close to 20, but I thought I'd challenge myself this time and see how I do, and I'm a week late from where I would have wanted this to be, but hey, you live and learn, right? For the next few weeks, I'll probably be slowing down on the demo reviews for now. Don't worry, I'm not giving those up completely. There are a few that I'd like to cover that I've actually been putting off getting around to, because I really want to get into the detective investigation games arc of this channel, and hope to see you around for that. Anyways, that's going to be it for me for now. Hope there's at least one game here that caught your attention. Let me know in the comments what that game is, or if you think I missed out on checking out a really good demo in this round of Next Fest. I'm Inigo. Don't forget to like the video, sub to the channel, check out my other stuff, and signing off for now. Bye!